The Voice, 17104, Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, touching lives with the power of internet radio.
You really got to do it. 48% of mule. This is bigger than the music. You really got to do it.
Yes, we're really about to do it. Welcome to the all-new Ron Chappell Show. Now let's go straight to our street report from our street reporter, Caldoon. Don't want to be called Scoop Rashid. Caldoon, good afternoon. Are you there? Earth to Caldoon Rashid.
Are you there, Caldoon?
Yeah, I'm here.
Go right ahead with your report, my brother.
I'm here. You ready?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead, Caldoon.
Oh, all right. Well, greetings once again to all of you there at the station and out there listening to the all-new Ron Chappell Show. And as always, it's always good to hear from the listening audience. And now for the street report. Local organizations are starting to feel the impact of recent government orders and policies that affect immigrants and refugees who have come to our city. However, despite this, many of our community organizations have begun to band together in order to keep providing those in need of basic food and hygienic needs. A new business is coming. Raising Cane is soon to be opening its Finger Licking Chicken Finger Restaurant on May 6, 2025, which is a Tuesday, at 5040 Jonestown Road here in Harrisburg. Raising Cane and its crew are anxious to bring their motto, One Love, to this Harrisburg community. Rite Aid store on Market Street in downtown Harrisburg has officially closed its doors and that of the pharmacy. Other nearby Rite Aid locations are still open and ready to serve you. The City of Harrisburg's Bureau of Economic Development is offering economic opportunities that impact and help to build the city's economy. In Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, the Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities is the primary entity that deals with the New York Stock Exchange and other stock exchanges. The Pennsylvania Department of Banking and Securities, hereafter called the DOBS, plays a major role in consumer protection, issuing licenses, and supervises financial institutions and professionals, ensuring that they comply with relevant regulations and standards when interacting with the New York Stock Exchange. DOBS also has an enforcement department. If violations of regulations are identified, the DOBS can take enforcement actions against the involved parties. Harrisburg, Pennsylvania has been in the New York Stock Exchange for a long, long time. It's time for the common person to learn and understand what's really going on with the city's money that first came from city taxpayers. WHGB TV 20 is the City of Harrisburg City Information Channel. Its new introductory sounds of symphonic orchestra strings, of violins, cellos, and bass offer a sweet treat into the harmonic sounds of historical beauty of the city's unknown talented musicians, supported also by a host of background brass and horn sections that exemplify the true skills and dynamics of a talented citizen. Liz Evans Gaffaro gave a presentation for the 13th annual Harrisburg City Cleanup. Liz is the revitalization coordinator for cleaning up city litter once a year in the Uptown, Allison Hill, Midtown, and other areas. The Great Harrisburg Litter Cleanup last year attracted over 425 volunteers who picked up over 5 tons of litter and over 600 tires. Capital Region Water and many other organizations and businesses have been providing a volunteer crew of their own, a true collaboration of Harrisburg Tri-County nonprofit, churches and state and local Harrisburg City residents. Makia Lehman, a handicapped Black woman from Enola, spoke at the April 8, 2025 Harrisburg City Council legislation session that Harrisburg City police officials yanked her out of her car on Park Street for no legitimate reason. Which brings me to the most recent homicide on 4th and Minnick Street of Omari Wilson Jr., who was shot by gang members who wore dark ski masks in front of his mother's house. I was there after the shots were fired, taking video and photography of police just standing around for over an hour. The ambulance took over a half hour to get there, and I learned that an off-duty EMT worker and her husband had rolled the victim over and were performing CPR when city police officers tackled them and ordered them away from providing Good Samaritan services. The couple reported this to a WGAL News 8 reporter who arrived at the scene, but it was not put on the air. Witnesses told me that Wilson's body was repositioned from the tackle and his airway was probably blocked. I saw the coroner's car come down 4th Street and be redirected by officers away from the scene. I also witnessed when the ambulance finally arrived. Witnesses tell me that EMTs attempted CPR to no avail, took Amari Wilson Jr. away in the ambulance, then pronounced him dead at the hospital. Harrisburg law enforcement officials appear to have acted with deliberate indifference by not allowing or rendering assistance to a gunshot victim. Had it been an officer down by a gunshot, it would have been a much different scenario, and I will continue to investigate this story. CBS 21 News canceled my interview at the scene after the announcement of a Jewish rally took precedence. And that's the scoop from Khaldun Rashid, your street reporter. Ron Chapel Show.
Khaldun, thank you very much for your report. Have a great day.
All right. Bye now.
Bye. Sorry to hear about that Rite Aid closing, Chris.
Sure, man, sure.
You know, and I can't hate to think that I can't help to think that the parking situation also played into a closing. You know, because there was a time when we could freely park in downtown Harrisburg along that business district, and now with the new recovery plan that was instituted, you have to pay for parking. I think at least an hour at a time. And I know that's one of the reasons why Eddie's menswear clothing store moved from downtown Harrisburg. They're now out on Cameron Street. And shout out to Eddie's Menswear. They're on Cameron Street, right next to Eddie's Furniture and Mattress Store. Okay, and now for the Community Affairs Report, Community Announcements. Pastor Chris Thomas.
Again, thank you, Ron, again, for this brief opportunity just to share with the Harrisburg community, again, what's going on, what the 411 is, again, in the Harrisburg area. Again, our first announcement, in brief and short, comes from the Ron Chapel Show. Again, if you're interested in promoting your business, your product, your services, again, if you have a vision, again, if you need some help, feel free to reach out to Ron Chapp or myself, and we'd love to get you on one of the up-and-coming programs. Again, reach out to us on Facebook or by calling 717-889-7181. Let's move on, Ron. Actually, this coming weekend is a very big weekend in the Harrisburg area. Easter egg hunts all over the place. Don't got time to announce them all, but one I want to announce, and I don't want to be remiss announcing, the Wesley Union, right here where we're located today, the Wesley Union AME Zion Church. The Wesley Union Outreach Services presents, again, an egg hunt. Again, that's April 19th. It's coming Saturday, 3:10 p.m. sharp. Again, the church, if you don't know, is located at 2219 North 5th Street in Harrisburg. Again, it's absolutely free. And again, this event is going to take place rain or shine. Again, our next announcement comes from Young Professionals of Color. Again, Juneteenth Jubilee going on. Thursday, June 19th, 12 p.m. Soldiers Grove, free activities, small businesses will be represented, free food, community resources, performances, inflatables, free family fun, and much, much more. Again, more information, feel free to reach out to them, www.juneteenthhbg.com. I believe there's 3 more quick announcements here, or 2 more. Join mayoral candidate Lamont Jones. Again, a meet and greet going on Saturday, April 19th, 2 p.m. to 3 o'clock. Please join with mayoral candidate Lamont Jones again and connect with community members, share in conversation about key issues, again, that are impacting our community, and listen to some fresh new ideas about how we collectively can move the city forward. More information, please reach out to Lamont Jones for mayor Again, at contact@lamontjonesformayor.com or call 717-623-2432. Let's see what we got here in our last two announcements here. I believe we have another one from Young Professionals of Color. Volunteers are needed. Again, join Harrisburg Young Professionals for their 25th annual Forster Street cleanup, Saturday, April 26th. Again, more information is available at City Living at hyp.org. And again, you're encouraged to register right now. Last but not least, Ron, let me see what I can pull up here. Our last announcement, I thought we had one more. Actually, Wesley Union AME Zion Church is going to be involved in the city litter pickup, and again, they're going to have a dumpster for the uptown Harrisburg area. And again, if you have some junk you've been meaning to get rid of, spring clean, and again, a great time to get her done. And again, that's hosted by Wesley Outreach Services and the Wesley Zion AME Church. And that brings to close our community calendar, Ron. Now back to you, bro.
Thank you, Pastor Chris Thomas. You know, it's been a lot of talk about the report that Louis Butts made. There's been a lot of talk about the incident on Minnick Street, and that involves Harrisburg Police Department. And you know, we have a viewer that happens to be the public safety chair of Harrisburg City Council, and so a shout out to Lamont Jones. If you want to call in and offer any input or opinion on what the citizens are talking about the incident on Minnick Street, please give us a call, 717-889-7181, 717-889-7181. And that is the same number that you viewers can use for our sound off segment that'll be coming up before the end of the show. If you want to call in and sound off about any of your concerns in the Harrisburg area. And also, Chris Thomas, you mentioned about the Juneteenth celebration. And also there's a subsequent parade, I believe, that'll be going on that day. And I hear that they're having difficulty recruiting people to enter floats and be a part of that parade. I even heard that some people are asking to be paid, to be financially compensated for taking part in that parade. And I think that is a shame. And so, Chris, I want to ask you, with the Voice 17104, where we're at now, the station that you and the missus own, are you considering entering a float in the Juneteenth parade?
Actually, Ron, I just heard about it today. I don't know when the deadline is for that, but we can put that into consideration.
Okay, well, I want to say that I'm going to enter a float. I'm going to enter a float. You know, I'm going to enter a float. The all-new Ron Chapel show will be a part of the Juneteenth parade, and I'll go through the proper procedures to have a float entered into that parade, because I do want to be of support. Also, I spoke with Shantae White earlier. I want to give I want to sponsor a reoccurring commercial advertisement for that parade to her. And also, I believe the parade chair, Eris Smallwood, if they can find time to come into the studio to record an announcement requesting people to be a part of that parade, well, then they'll contact you, Chris, at the station.
Okay.
And we'll arrange that, and we'll play that every show up until that time. Okay, and so that's my contribution to that Juneteenth celebration and the parade. Okay, folks, there's been a lot of controversial things happening here in the Harrisburg area, and so we're going to invite you in a little bit to call in to give us your take on what's going on pressing issues that you may be dealing with being a resident of Harrisburg. And this time, because of a major story that we're going to be discussing, I'm going to invite people from all locales to call in. You don't have to be just a resident of Harrisburg. If you live outside of the city limits of Harrisburg, your input is also welcome. But right now, we're going to take time to introduce our very, very special guest today on the all-new Ron Chapel Show. He's no stranger to the Voice 17104. You know, he's been here before on several shows, on the Real Rap with Ron Chapel Show, and the Ron Chapel Show, and we are honored to have him here visiting the first time on the all-new Ron Chapel Show. Now, he's a man of many, many talents, a man that wears many, many hats in the community, always helpful to the community. And so I want to introduce him right now. And so join me, Chris Thomas, and folks, as we welcome to the set, Swatara Township Commissioner, our friend Tom Conley. Woo, 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 woo! Welcome, Tom. Welcome back, Tom.
Welcome back, Tom.
Well, thank you. Great to see you as always, Pastor Chris Thomas and
Welcome.
Ron Chapel. Thank you for extending the invitation for the new format, new time. As you said, I've been honored to be here before as a guest and a guest host, and
Yes.
I appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Okay, so what's been happening, Tom? Let everybody know what's been going on with Tom Conley and Swatara Township.
Well, Swatara Township is the third largest municipal entity by population,
Okay.
and we surpassed Susquehanna and Dairy Township in the 2020 census. I serve on the Board of Commissioners with, there's a total of 5 of us, 3 Democrats, 2 Republicans, and we continue to do good things for the community. Most recently, we passed some land development issues which allow additional uses in the township to help generate tax revenue. We're still diversifying the police department. We entered into our 3rd contract policing the borough of Paxtang. We're the only municipal entity in Dauphin County that provides public safety to an additional municipality. We also provide fire protection now to Paxtang. So, those are 2 positive things. We're improving our parks. We just had a Easter egg hunt of our own. It was scheduled to be outside in Ivy Ridge Park, which actually overlooks the city of Harrisburg. Due to bad weather, we moved it inside. We had over 500 people come out. So all in all, I could go on about Swatara, but I think we're in good hands. We're moving forward. We're working with the Central Dauphin School District to bring full day, all day kindergarten to students, which will be the first time that happened. And the Central Dauphin School District recently opened or purchased a building that was former AFSCME building behind the Swatara Township Municipal Government Administration Building, and that will be all day kindergarten starting in 26 is the plan. So positive things for all of our residents. We have a senior fair coming up next Wednesday at the LCBC building on Chambers Hill Road, and I don't want to bore anybody, but
No, tell us about it. What time is it?
that will be 11 to 1. And there's over 100 vendors. It's free for anybody from the public to come there dealing with senior issues. Whether you are a senior or not, sooner or later you'll be faced with helping a family member if it's not you yourself. And there's a wide range of services, including government services from the county and state. But there's also a lot of private vendors there. So it's a very big event, and it's right on Chambers Hill Road at the LCBC building. Basically across from Kia Turner. So we'd love to see you.
Okay, and so it's open to the public, so one don't necessarily have to be a resident of Swatara Township.
No, it's open to the public.
Okay, and also kudos to you. I understand that your daughter Shayla is now the president of the Swatara Township Commission.
Yes, Shayla is the
Shayla.
president of the Swatara Township Board of Commissioners. Shane Steele is the vice president. I'm fortunate to serve on the board. I had served for 8 years prior, and I'm back, and I feel like as a board member, I know we have good leadership, and I think the public could be very confident in what we're doing.
Okay. Chris, before we move on, you got a comment or a question for Mr. Conley?
Sure. Again, Tom, it's always an honor, a privilege, man, just to be in your presence, man. Long time ago, you helped us out, and I'll never, ever, ever, ever forget, your generosity, man, and really being what the real definition of a public servant is. Thank you. Now, real quick, now all the initiatives, all the projects you guys got going on in the Harrisburg area, in the SWAT area. If some people have some extra time on their hands and they want to volunteer, are you guys looking for some volunteers? If so, how can they reach out to you and get active, engaged, and involved, sir? Please and thank you.
Yes. Number one, I've had the opportunity to help in the past, and I will help again if it's ever needed. By the same token, you have helped me, and you've helped many getting messages out. Swanera Township has social media, primarily Facebook, but we also have a website. And for Saturday's event, which will be our Earth Day cleanup, it'll be the 12th annual Earth Day cleanup in Swanera Township, you can comment on any of our posts about any upcoming activities, or you could privately message myself at tconnolly@swatera.twp.com, or call the Township Building, 717-564-2551, Monday through Friday, with the exception of holidays, between 8:30 and 4:30, and offer your services or provide contact information, and someone will get back to you. One example, I would say the senior fair, we did post in advance of the coming dates, and we solicited vendors.
Yes, sir.
And I think the cutoff was originally going to be 70.
Okay.
But we had such a demand, we upped it to 100 vendor spots. So it's a very large senior fair. But any event Swanera Township has will be posted in advance on our social media and our website. And then at that point, there will be a request for people to participate.
Yes, sir.
So we do send it internally to all township residents in a quarterly newsletter, but many of our events cross outside the township borders.
Yes, sir.
So we can have vendors at our National Night Out. We have people for our Halloween walkthrough, and whether you want to volunteer your services, or you want to sponsor, or you just want information about the event, you can reach out to Swanera Township through social media, Facebook, or call that 717-564-2551 and get your questions answered.
And that website for the listeners in conclusion, sir?
The website is Swanera Township. It's just our government website, and the Facebook is also just listed. If you type in Swanera Township on a Google search, you'll get multiple opportunities to reach out to us.
Fantastic. Thank you, Tom.
And
Thank
we
you.
invite you, if there's a future announcements that you want aired, please feel free to send them to Chris Thomas, and we'll be sure to announce them during community announcements time. Okay, there's a story that's been in the Harrisburg News. That box is on the screen, Chris. I don't know if you see it on the screen. Okay. I'll ignore that box. There's a story, a big story that's been happening in Dauphin County over the past couple of weeks, and I wrote a post on it. And I tell you, I've been literally excoriated, with a lot of attacks, from people in Harrisburg. And matter of fact, in this part of Pennsylvania, period. And it's regarding one of our elected officials, and that's George Hartwick. George Hartwick, he's a Dauphin County Commissioner, I believe now for about 20 years. And so what I want to do first, before I get into this, I want to read the post that I printed, and I want to open the telephone lines up, the people that may have something to say, and I'm going to ask your view of the situation also, Tom, being a commissioner yourself. And this involves here in Harrisburg, in Dauphin County, Pennsylvania, where we're located at, where this show is coming to you from. There is an incident, which is the fourth incident of its nature, with a Dauphin County Commissioner, and I'm trying to find the post on my phone here. And I do have employment available for a secretary. I need a secretary for the show, and so if you are interested in that position, please contact the station or inbox me. and see if we can come to some agreement for you being a secretary for the all new Ron Chapel show. But anyway, here's the post that I wrote. Okay, and it says, Commissioner George Hartwick, come and talk with us. Don't you think you owe us that? Now let me amplify on what I'm talking about. You know, I've been accused of thinking that George Hardwick should come and talk to me. I said that, you know, I said, don't you think that you owe us that? But I wasn't speaking necessarily personally about coming to talk with Ron Chapel. Ron Chapel is just another resident in Dauphin County. I was referring to him as an elected official coming to address the Dauphin County residents, especially the voters, about what is now, we're told, the fourth incident of drunk driving. The fourth incident of drunk driving. Now, I'm not going to get into, and I'm not going to get into any kind of personal medical situation that George Hardwick may have that is personal and that is dear to him, and I'm going to respect that. So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about him as an elected official entrusted not only with being a leader in this county, in Dauphin County, but also being furnished a vehicle that's paid for by county taxpayers. And this, as I understand, isn't the first incident. It's not the second incident. It's not even the third. It is the fourth incident where apparently he was intoxicated operating a county-owned vehicle. And so I suggested that he may want to come to a public forum, as this show is, to say something to the taxpayers of Dauphin County. As I say, it is our vehicle that he damaged, and is we the people who will be subsequent to any payouts because of his reckless driving. You know, I feel like this. If you want to borrow my car, Chris Thomas,
Yes, sir.
or Tom, well, I know you guys, and I respect you guys enough to let you use my car. Only thing I ask is that you take care of my vehicle as you would your own. And when you return it, please return it with the same gas level that you're receiving it in. But if you go out and not only have one incident, but two incidents, and more than that, you know, damaging my vehicle and putting me in legal jeopardy, and you don't say anything to me about it, you don't come back and tell me anything, you know, you just park it and then get up and use it again, whatever you feel like using it. I think that is totally wrong, and in fact, I think that's what's happening here with the residents, with the taxpayers of Dauphin County. I mean, we have all these news stories about George Hardwick drinking and driving, not only drinking and driving. Matter of fact, admittedly, with this fourth incident, we understand that he told a police officer that he had drank a half a bottle of vodka, and then got behind the wheel, and that attributed to this latest accident. So I feel, as I say, that he should come and say something to us. At least tell us, you know, that he is accepting responsibility for what happened, and his plans to make sure that it don't happen again. And so that's all that I'm asking. And as I say, I was attacked on social media. People saying a person literally told me to stay at my place, that it wasn't up to me to suggest that he come and say anything to the taxpayers. I had a lot of friends of people that George Hardwick has directly helped, aided, you know, such as relatives of the individual that George Hardwick gave a position to to host a county event here in Harrisburg without any open and fair competition, but because the person is a relative of a certain clique here in Harrisburg, a lot of that person's family members and friends have been calling in, excoriating me for even bringing up the subject of George Hardwick. Yes, George Hardwick has helped a lot of people in this community. You know, I tip my hat to him. He was the only public official, the only elected official at a time several years ago when I was a candidate for magistrate here in Harrisburg, and there were 4 other candidates, and the State Election Commission, for some reason, disallowed 6,000 registered voters in that particular magisterial district an opportunity to vote for their own magistrate. And George Hardwick was the only public official that spoke up and spoke out against that. I remember going to the public participation session at City Council, and at that time, Gloria Martin Roberts was the president of Harrisburg City Council, and she would not even let me speak on the issue. She said, well, we already know what happened, and so we're going to move on. She would not even let me speak on the issue, period. And so George Hardwick was the only public official that said something in defense of the residents who had their voting power usurped by the Election Commission. And so he has done something that I think was beneficial to a lot of people here in Harrisburg, but that's besides the point. He still have the responsibility of conducting himself as a trusted public official, and I still maintain that he owe us some kind of response. Now, personally, if it was me, if I was in that situation, and let me also preface this by saying, as I say, I'm not going to get into any kind of medical situation with George Hardwick. You know, a lot of you know, for instance, myself, that I am in recovery. I'm in my 27th year of recovery, you know, from the addiction of alcohol. But I still say that if it was me in this situation, I would at least come in and I would address you and give my take of all these different news stories. And I feel that I would owe you taxpayers an apology. And I would also tell you taxpayers how I intend on making sure that I don't be in the same situation again, whether it be that I would put myself on a 90-day suspension or a 6-month suspension, a 90-day suspension, have you without pay, so I can take care of any situation that's attributed to me continually having these problems, being behind the wheel, intoxicated. And also, I have a question for George Hardwick. A question. I'm curious as if he drove home after those incidents. If he drove himself home after those incidents, well, then that is saying that he was behind the wheel of a county-owned vehicle, intoxicated. So I believe that's drunk driving. That's drunk driving, and so that put everybody's health, everybody's well-being in jeopardy. And so those are the reasons that I suggested that he may want to come on this program and say something to the voters. So, gentlemen, that's my position. And so, do you have any input, anything you want to say about that? And Chris, I know you're a pastor and all, but I want to ask you to put the extra sensitivity or extra sentiment aside and deal with it, you know, as a practical matter of responsibility. So, Chris, your take.
Sure, I commented last week, so I'll actually defer to Tom, because my stance is still pretty much the same as.
Okay, for those that didn't hear your stance, Chris, I'm asking you.
Sure. Again, as alluded to in your conversation, again, you know, leaders, public officials should be held to a higher standard, to the same standard as, you know, as the everyday citizen. If I got pulled over, if you got pulled over, if I got in an accident, if you got in an accident, you know, there is a responsibility and a consequence. But it's hard for me to take the mercy gloves off because I need mercy at the end of the day. But with the several offenses, I think that's where the biggest issue with many Harrisburg residents lie. It isn't the first offense or the second offense, but the third and the fourth. At this time, I think if I was in those shoes, I would definitely look for some help that I need, and I would probably take some time off for self-care. So I can serve my city and those that look up to me better.
Okay, thank you, Chris. Mr. Conley.
The irony of the situation
Hey,
is...
put the camera on time, please, Chris.
The irony here is that I was entering the building most likely at the exact same time the accident happened. So I was carrying my 14-month-old granddaughter with me. So within minutes, we had just crossed in front of the entrance to the garage. I don't have the privilege of a private parking spot in a government vehicle. So I got a spot by the hospital, paid the parking meter, and then headed to the county building. And I was not there for the commissioners' meeting. I had an event, which was a press conference in the same room as the commissioners' meeting, but after the meeting. So it was a very light agenda. So my plan was to get there 10:15 or so after the commissioners were done, which I never would have really crossed paths with the commissioners. But when the elevator door opened, there was Commissioner Hartwick. He was struggling, to say the least. You don't know that as soon as you enter, but it became apparent that he was having trouble, getting dressed in the elevator that had only come up one floor.
Getting dressed, put on a tie or something.
His belt was hanging on the floor, and he had it through one belt loop, and he was unable to get it to the second belt loop. So other people entered the elevator. There was small conversation, but it was obvious at the very least that he was struggling, that he was impaired. I let that be known within a few minutes. Didn't expect him to come out in the meeting, so he did. At that point, he's now out in public, being paid to perform functions and duties, and he was unable to do it. The meeting, it was tough to watch. I was in and out with the 14-month-old waiting for it to end. Obviously, it delayed everybody that was there for a press conference about immigration and the national policies. We had a resident from Sweater Township who has been deported, so we're waiting to talk about these things. And all that is delayed, and you had a commissioner that unfortunately could not continue with the county's business. My initial response was for his health, and I did write an email to the chairman of the county board of commissioners and the chief clerk expressing that concern. That number one, I thought that Mr. Hartwick needed some type of medical attention, but then I did express my concerns that the public's business was not being done. As far as an explanation, I think it should come from the county. So you have that meeting where he was unable to perform his duties. You have the next two meetings where he doesn't show up. But what doesn't stop, him coming to the meeting stops, but what doesn't stop is dealing with children and youth in the county, dealing with issues at the prison, other people that have drug and alcohol issues, housing, right down the line. That doesn't stop. And if the person, whether it's him or anybody else, isn't capable of dealing with those issues in a professional way, in the way that they were elected and tasked with dealing with them, you're really not getting the public service. So this isn't necessarily, for me, about one commissioner, about Commissioner Hartwick. This would be about anybody in this position. And you have to remember the things you find out later. So your first reaction is the person's health, their well-being, how are they? We're worried about this commissioner. But then we find out the commissioner crashed on his way into the building. That wasn't known during that meeting or during the press conference. So then it's, wouldn't somebody stay with the car? Like if we crashed going to work, we wouldn't just continue to go to work. And then it gets even more complicated because it was obvious to everybody in the room. We're talking about the same room, the same building, a floor below that has Dauphin County CID, Criminal Investigative Division, that has a district attorney, that has security in the room for all the meetings, and that yet somehow the steps that would happen to everyone else weren't taken. So it's bigger than one person, and it's bigger than drinking, it's bigger than driving, it's bigger than poor judgment for one person. There seems to be a system and a series that continues with the poor judgment. And then we understand that the person was asked to go get blood and alcohol tested. I don't think that happens, very often. And then you add to it, the series of events over the years. It's just not a good situation, and I think that the citizens, are due some explanation as to what the path is going forward. If it's private, medical, rehab, those types of things, we're not entitled to all that, and we're not. I don't think people should attack or bash, but you're certainly entitled to a level of information that would come out. Anybody that did something like this, the head of a business, a sports team.
That's what I'm saying. Go right ahead. Go right ahead, sir.
At this point, being there and seeing him in that condition was just kind of, very surreal that the person who should have been conducting county business, if that's somebody calling,
No.
okay, I didn't know if we need to stop for that, but there's a lot to it. And what it really comes down to is a broken system at county government. They have cameras. There was an accident. The person who's driving, is having some issues. All the signs are there that you would have in another, alcohol-related crash. And one thing that stands out is when the district attorney said the CID is not really a customer used to dealing with DUI, like it's some low-level crime.
Wow.
Well, we would like to think that they have some level of expertise in homicides and sex crimes and major crimes. Wouldn't they have worked their way up? So that really, I think, was a terrible remark to make about his professional staff, when there's always the possibility that they knew exactly what to do, but something else entered into it. And unfortunately, the situation is things weren't handled the same. And I think that's the big investigation. We owe more of a statement on what went wrong after the fact than what happened. What happened, we know what happened. They have a camera. They have an admission from the person driving, as to what he did before that. That may only be a partial admission. But that's a pretty fair start, that, it wasn't I was having a medical issue or I passed out or anything like that. He said he drank a half a bottle of vodka and drove there. And then at that point, the selection of who would take the person to the hospital and then take him home, they almost were dealing with a friend in a way to cover up an incident rather than a person in the public life who committed an incident that should just be treated fairly. I'll be the first person to say nobody should put any more weight on the fact that the person was a commissioner. I understand, that comes with the job duties. So if there's issues with his job, but he should be treated fairly. And sometimes we actually see it the other way, where somebody, because of a position, is held to a higher standard the whole way through the process. I think a fair, reading of this is he was not held to the same standard as anybody else. And Ron, you alluded to that. I think you or I know that, and Pastor Chris, if the three of us would have driven in there and did that type of thing, and then were unable to perform what we were there to perform, I don't think they would have been looking for somebody to take us to get tested and somebody to take us home. I think we probably would have been detained, questioned, and gone through the process. And that's the bigger problem. The bigger problem is a county out of control. If it's a commissioner with issues, that's a little bit smaller than a county completely out of control in their response. The same county that we expect to respond in many other situations where people are in need or in crisis.
Well, you know what? I thank you for your comments, and I guarantee you that if it was us in the same situation, there wouldn't have been a fourth occurrence. There probably wouldn't even have been a second time, because the moment that the story was told that we were intoxicated behind the wheel of a county-owned vehicle, that would have been it, period. That would have been it. Now, Chris, I had you look up the penalties for a public official with a DUI, and we don't even know. I guess we can only conjecture that it was a DUI, but because he didn't even wait to be tested, and I would think, isn't a normal process that when the police arrive at a incident where it's a question whether or not the driver was drinking, that there's a test performed right there on the spot. And if that's the normal procedure, I wonder why one wasn't done. And I think there's also a penalty for leaving the scene of an accident when you are a driver. And so, Chris, you found the penalties for a public official driving under the influence. And what are some of the penalties, please?
Sure, this is per Google. Again, I'm not a lawyer, but this is per what was Googled. It says in Pennsylvania, a DUI conviction for an elected official can lead to 1 to 5 years prison sentence, a fine ranging from $1,500 to $10,000, and an 18-month license suspension. Additionally, the conviction may also result in disqualification from holding any office of trust or profit in the state, Ron.
Okay. Now, and also let me speak from a person that just served a 1-year suspension of having my driver's license suspended. And no, it wasn't because of any substance. It was because of parking tickets and not answering the parking tickets on time. And so they can do that, and they do that. And I was a victim of that because of my neglect to answer proper summonses. And so I don't think that because a person holds a political office that they should be treated any harsher, or they I just want everything to be fair across the board. And maybe some of you disagree with that, and that's your prerogative, of course. But as I said in the beginning, all that I ask is that he come and address the public somewhat, say something to us, because a lot of us did vote for you, and we're paying you in excess of $130,000 a year. And I went through a year of not only catching the bus on cold wintry days, but also bearing the expense of Ubers and taxi cabs because of my neglect. And I think that there should be some righteous penalty for his actions also. And so I'm just curious as to what some of you may want to say about this story. And and if you want to call in and attack me the way you did on Facebook, well, then I'm here for that also. And so if you have any input on this story, please give us a call at 717-889-7181. Are you here for phone calls also, Tom?
Sure.
Okay, 717-889-7181. Or you may want to call in about a different issue, or you may want to call in and speak to Swatara Township Commissioner Tom Conley direct, and you can do so right now. And while we are awaiting calls if they come, I want to say that we made an announcement about a meet and greet for mayoral candidate Lamont Jones, but also let me say that we give the same opportunity to any mayoral candidate in Harrisburg, lest anybody think that I'm being biased or playing favorites. We did make available at no expense to their campaign for each candidate running for mayor. Matter of fact, for any candidates running for political office in the May 20 primary, we made it available for them for 2 months to come in and come in for an interview, and also to open themselves up to phone calls from you, the residents. And so I don't want you to think that I'm being biased toward Lamont Jones. If there's any other mayoral candidate that has an announcement about a meet and greet, please let us know, and we would gladly announce it also. And I had one Facebook viewer that said, well, the other candidates should come in and sit and answer questions. Matter of fact, they spoke primarily of Lamont Jones, saying he should come in and answer questions, which he did, which also did Dan. I'm
Miller.
having a George which moment.
Miller, bro.
Dan Miller, thank you, sir. Dan Miller, and also Like a Sleep, but Dan Miller and also Lewis Butts. Mr. Lewis Butts also came in for an interview, and also was here for phone calls from the residents. The only mayoral candidate that didn't was Tone Cook, which was his prerogative. We also made space available for a surrogate from his campaign if they chose to come in, and they chose not to. And so don't think that I'm playing favorites. I want to be fair to all the candidates. I also had some remarks after the last show. Folks wrote in and said that I yelled at or I hollered at Lewis Butts and I cut his phone call short. Well, I want to say that I don't think I did. I did not yell at Lewis Butts. I just told Lewis Butts when he called in the same way I told Lamont Jones when he called in about an issue. Please, no campaigning. No campaigning. You know, we have avenues if candidates want to come on now after that 2-month grace period. If they want to come on now to make campaign remarks, they can do so. But I held Lamont Jones to the same standard, and I expressed that to Lewis Butts, but Lewis Butts continued to go on to attack Lamont Jones, who had called prior, and Lamont Jones had not even mentioned Lewis Butts' name, and so that's why I cut the phone call short. You know, we want to have things in order here. We have things in order the same way any other business, and so Lewis were violating those rules, and so that's why we ended his call. But he's free to call in now if you want to call in and make any comment about the issue that we just spoke of, or if there's any other issue in the Harrisburg area that he wants to speak on, and that same opportunity goes to all of you. It goes to all of you, and so the telephone line is open. Tom, you about to say something? Something you want to say?
I mean, while we're on the subject of the county, I think it's fair to address some positive things that have happened since this incident of 3 weeks ago. The 2 county commissioners, one Democrat, one Republican, have continued on with the meetings and doing the business of the county. They've also divided up the oversights. They were split into thirds with 3 commissioners, so now they've each taken a half. So they divided up the oversight areas that Commissioner Hartwick had. So that's 2 gentlemen stepping up across party lines, trying to do the right thing. And I will say this, I know from a recent news article that the Penn Live reporters asked for all of the driving records. So it wasn't a witch hunt looking for one commissioner. And they had mentioned that previous commissioners may have had an accident or something here or there, but those all were documented and explained. But the interesting thing is at the meeting yesterday, the commissioners, 2 of them voted unanimously. They both voted to suspend Commissioner Hartwick's driving privileges and the use of county vehicles. So at least they're stepping up.
Yeah,
it's an unfortunate situation. If you have a team of 3, and you probably have enough work spread across 5 or 10 people, but you have a team of 3 getting it done, that the other 2 could step in and continue on. So I think at the very least, the chairman, Justin Douglas, and the vice chair, Mike Priest, should get some credit for trying to move the county forward, to steady the ship, kind of go around this. It's not all the way in the past. They're still dealing with it, but at least we have some level of confidence. And one of the stories that came out was a detailed story that the information came from the county, so there's no opinion or exaggeration. Put something in the news that I think a lot of people didn't know about, was the totaling of a vehicle in 23 by the same commissioner, overtaking somebody. I looked at the time. I looked up the weather. It was basically before lunch on a dry, sunny day, and he destroyed a county vehicle while he was running for commissioner. And I don't think that was ever publicly disclosed. And that would have been possibly a red flag. But at the very least, there could have been the opportunity to discuss accountability. How many vehicles can you destroy or damage with the only punishment apparent is that you have to take a little bit of time in a rental car before your purchase of a new vehicle comes through. So in advance of the election, you would think with the Republicans holding control and a controller and accountability, somebody would have talked about that publicly. It seemed like the response was it wasn't that big of a deal because it was paid for with gaming dollars. It's a pretty big deal. And then that cuts down the gap of time between other incidents, that really paint, a driving record that would disqualify somebody from driving. And it hadn't happened until yesterday by a vote of the two remaining board members. So, maybe that could have, helped the situation. And the other thing, it's an angle of this that I don't know that anybody really considered. The condition that Commissioner Hartwick was in, maybe he himself was not in control of all those decisions that benefited him. Maybe he didn't necessarily ask for it, but the staff did things differently than they would do for other people, and that's just enabling somebody. I mean, we don't know of any statements or anything where Commissioner Hartwick said, "Hey, let me off on this incident and just take me home." Those decisions all seem to be made by other people who, by all accounts, were not drunk or under the influence. So I think there's a lot more to this. There's more to come out. But at the same time, I have confidence that the county is moving forward with two instead of three. So I just wanted to put that perspective out there.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Thank you, Tom. Folks, we gave you an opportunity to call in if you had something to say about my request that Commissioner George Hardwick come on and address the taxpayers, or is he just leaving it up to us to take the news accounts and consider that all that is being factual? And so I gave you an opportunity to call in. You chose not to, and so don't look for any further comments on this issue on Facebook from me. The case, as far as my opinions on it, you heard my opinions. I gave you, as I say, an opportunity to respond. You chose not to, and so that's the end of it for me, and my comments still stand. I believe that Commissioner George Hardwick owes us to address these news stories about his fourth incident, apparently of drinking and driving. Okay, I want to thank our special guest today, the Honorable Tom Conley, Commissioner of Soterra Township. And Tom, don't be surprised if I ask you to come in to host the show if it fits with your schedule in the future, because you did some fantastic jobs the last two occasions that you hosted. So I may be calling upon you to come in and host the show sometime.
Well, I appreciate that, and certainly if I'm available and my schedule permits, I will gladly do that.
Okay, and thank you. And folks, I want to thank Pastor Chris Thomas, Bliss Hall Thomas, for owning the Voice 17104 Internet Radio, where we're at now. And I want to ask you to be sure to join us on the next show, next Thursday, where we'll have as our special guest Latasha Williams, candidate for Dauphin County Judge. We are comprising a panel to interview her, and so we do hope that you call in with your interest and also with your phone calls to her. And so for Chris Thomas, for Tom Conley, Ron Chappell saying, thanks for watching. If you feel it's worthy, please share the show and have a great day.